morning and welcome to Hello Westchester here on WCHE every Monday from 11:30 to noon. I'm Eric Nabera, joined by Cara Corridoni, publisher of Hello Westchester, which you can subscribe to at hellowestchesterpa.com. Good morning, Cara. How are you today?
I am doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing well. Had a little bit of snow this morning, so woke up to that, but all is well beyond that.
That is true. I was not expecting that.
Yeah, a little bit, but not
pretty much gone.
Not too bad for sure. So a lot to get to in today's program. As always, the first thing we'll discuss here are Westchester students hoping to expand youth voting in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so I got word of this story through the Chester County, the Fund for Women and Girls. So they sent out kind of a notice about this. But they are working with about a dozen or so Chester County students to change the voting age. So they would like to see it lowered to 16. In particular for school board elections. So they would like to see, so that would be around junior year. Juniors and seniors would be allowed to vote in school board elections. We spoke with Elena Petrosity. She's now a freshman at Penn State University. She's taking part in this group called Vote 16 PA. And she kind of came of age during COVID-19. And so it may have been some of this COVID-19 decision-making that kind of spurned advocacy among these girls. I know it was the case for her. She said that, personally she found that during COVID, many of the candidates were acting on their own interests rather than those of the teachers and students. At least that's how she felt. And she found it frustrating not be able to have a real formal say in that. She just had to sit back and watch. She did share that she has participated in school board meetings in the past, so she's attended, she's spoken up, but she also just expressed frustrations knowing that, while she could speak, really she had no accountability because she didn't have a way to affect change to the people behind the dais there. So she is working with the Fund for Women and Girls, as well as, like I said, about 12 other students from this area. And they have a memo they've put together that would lower the voting age in Pennsylvania to 16 for school board elections. And they are starting to share that around, gather support for the memo. They do have our local state rep, Chris Pielli. He has signed on as that lead sponsor for the bill. And they're working to get more support at the moment. So this is part of and it's not just a Westchester thing or even a Chester County thing. It's actually a national movement that's going on right now. So Vote 16 PA, which is what these girls represent, is actually part of a larger Vote 16 USA movement. They currently have campaign initiatives in 23 states. That includes Pennsylvania. And what they're trying, and it varies state by state. It varies by municipality how they're addressing this. In Pennsylvania, it's looking at school board elections. In other cases, it can be more for local elections. Currently, there is no statewide legislation that allows 16-year-olds to vote. There are some states that allow 17-year-olds to vote in primary elections if they will be 18 during the general elections, so in November. But nobody allows 16-year-olds to vote as a state. There are some municipalities that do, however, allow 16-year-olds to vote, including in New Jersey and Maryland. And these are just for local elections, but in school board. So there's some precedent for this. However, in Pennsylvania, the way the home rule statute is set up, it prevents individual municipalities from lowering the local voting age. So unfortunately, instead of them attempting to lobby borough council to make the change locally here, they're going to take on the whole state. So that's what I was told by the director of advocacy and policy for the Fund for Women and Girls. That's Blake Emanuel, and she's helping kind of organize this. Right now, the group's working to contact Pennsylvania's House and State Senate members to raise awareness and build support. They do have 10 co-sponsors on this bill now, so they're making some nice progress on that. When I ask kind of what the biggest challenges are, what Elena was sharing is that it's really trying to convince people that they know what they're talking about. So some of the positives that people cite for making this change, beyond representation for those, that are students themselves, it includes increased lifelong civic engagement and knowledge. So the earlier you vote, the more likely you are to continue voting at a later age. And they cite that part of that being 16-year-olds still tends to be, at home. So, but when you get to 18, if you've left for college, you may no longer be at home. You may be away at college, and that would require getting, absentee ballots and other measures that may hinder that process. So this could help increase engagement among younger voters. Another benefit that is cited is that better long-term voting habits, so those kind of go hand in hand, and a greater sense of purpose and identity for students. It kind of gives them a little more control in their life, so that's all positive. As far as the kind of those against, some of the biggest concerns come around cognitive reasoning among the younger voters, and another I guess, I don't know if this isn't negative so much, but another kind of point of concern for some people is that there's a belief that younger voters are going to skew heavily in one direction politically. So that makes, one side more likely to support than the other. Both Elena and Blake point to research that shows that there's little difference between the cognitive levels of a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old. So that's why that's the age that they have selected, a 16-year-old, because there are pretty significant cognitive differences between a 15-year-old and an 8-year-old. So there is some change there. So that's kind of where they've landed on the 16-year-old, because I did ask them, like, you're going to do it, why not do freshman on, right? So there is science behind that. There's also the argument that younger voters tend to skew more Democratic. The argument there is that it's not necessarily the case. They say it's more younger voters tend to be more issue voters rather than have a party affiliation, which would make sense. They're kind of young to have built a party affiliation, perhaps. But that they don't seem to have done quite so well as convincing that. So they do have the 9 co-sponsors, 10 sponsors together, but they're all Democrats at this point. They are looking for trying to get bipartisan support on this bill. So.
Something I found very interesting, the argument from Representative Pielli was mentioning that the school board decisions specifically, that the students deal with the repercussions of those, but they don't have say in who is elected. So that was something I found very interesting and, a good point.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's some of the frustration that Elena was, speaking of when we chatted, is that, you can speak, but you're not really who's voted them in, so they're really not accountable to you, although they are peripherally, so I think it is a good point.
Yeah.
As far as where this stands and what's next, so they are building support. They are doing a pretty good job of that. But a little civic reminder, this process takes a lot of time. So they've got to then, once they get a support level where they are comfortable with, they will introduce the bill. If that goes well, it gets assigned to a committee. It gets a bill number and a committee. At the committee, it has to go through committee, so that has to be voted out of committee to the House floor. And then all House members have to vote on that. And if that also succeeds, if they are able to pass that, then it goes to that's the House side. So then all that has to be duplicated in the Senate. I think if the bills are not exactly the same, they have to mash them up and vote again, and then it goes to the to the governor's desk for signature, and then he would have to sign it. So it is a long process. It can be tough. I asked Blake, she said she wasn't willing to comment on how long she thought it would take, because as being someone who's done this for a while, she said she's a little jaded, which I can understand. But Elena said she's optimistic, and they feel positive that they're making some good strides. So I thought it was an interesting little development that's going on here in Westchester, and, leading the way for the state. So
Yeah, definitely interesting there, and we'll see what happens. I know that they just had a bill that Governor Shapiro signed with cursive in public schools.
Oh, okay.
So they're requiring cursive in public schools. So we'll see if anything gets moving on this particular issue. The next topic we had here, Westchester University starts a demo work on Rosedale Avenue. What's happening here?
Yeah, so if you've been down Rosedale recently, you might have noticed there was a couple of homes that have been demolished right before Rosedale Avenue. So right across kind of the junction at Church Street. There was two there. There's two more that are still coming. They're going to be taken down. This is all part of a planned expansion of the Psych Student Union. So that is kind of, those processes are underway. So the idea here will be to expand the building along West Washington Avenue to alleviate program pressures for dining, multipurpose meeting space, for events, lectures, additional student support space for clubs and association is one part of it. They also would like to see, the university would like to consolidate some administrative functions together and improve first impressions. So there's administration functions they want to consolidate. It's one piece, but in the original master plan, which is kind of where I got this data from, the idea was to put a welcome center here, and so then they would like to have a welcome center. The university would like to see a welcome center, and they'd house all that kind of introductory stuff for new students, which makes sense. But as you probably remember, and I know some people in this borough definitely remember, they also proposed a welcome center at College Arms Apartments that was received some mixed feedback. Some people liked the approach. The others, especially those in that neighborhood there, were not quite such big fans, and they pushed back rather heavily. So it's still kind of, I think, up in the air as to where this welcome center may end up. But initially it had been planned for this area here. So we'll see. But we do know that the buildings are coming down. And like I said, two more are expected to come down in the future.
So a lot of changes at Westchester. I feel like that's something, even when I was there, they worked on the Science and Engineering Center. Mm-hmm. And so there's always something going on.
There's always something going on. And I'm sure, as one who went there, you probably have a laundry list of needs that need to be taken care of too, right?
Of course. So that was Westchester University starting demo work on Rosedale Avenue. And then finally, before we cut to a break, let's talk a little bit about Restaurant Week. So it's going to be returning to Westchester.
Yes. So it is coming back. If you're not familiar, Restaurant Week is kind of it's a week-long event, obviously. And it's starting on Sunday, and it'll run through March 5th. And what it is a selection of restaurants are going to be presenting a multi-course prix-fixe menu. These meals will run somewhere between $40 and $60 a person, depending on the restaurant, depending on the entree selection sometimes. And how they set it up varies too. So, for example, Beer Hall Townhouse is participating. And they are offering a cup of soup, a salad, an appetizer, an entree, and a dessert for $50. They're also going to do a $25 multi-course lunch option. Not everybody's doing a lunch option, but if that's something you're looking for, there are a few out there, so keep an eye out for that as well. By contrast, La Scala's Fire you'll get 3 courses. So that could be the meatball trio, and then maybe you would want as your appetizer, and then you could have a spicy chicken cutlet rigatoni for your main meal, and then finish that with a slice of tiramisu, and that would be $45 a person.
So lots of different options. I'm seeing total of 29 locations participating here.
Yes, so a good selection. Yeah, 29. A lot of your favorites will be there. Mino Sushi, Station 142, Westchester Seafood Cafe. Those are some of the newer ones. If you haven't got a chance to try them, they'll be there. There's also your favorites, Bar Avalon's participating. The Original Spez Cafe will be there too. If you want something more casual, you could do Maje Caribbean or Ryan's Pub. If you want a more formal night out, you could do 9 Prime or Jolene's. Those are both participating as well. So a lot of options. There are a couple of notable exceptions. One in particular being Dim Sum Taste, which just opened here on Gay Street. So if you'd have been wanting to check that one out, you're going to have to just make a reservation. They're not participating. Neither is Barnaby's, Penn's Table, Roots Cafe, or Tsunami. So, but a wide variety are participating. If you want to try it out, it's a fun time.
Yeah, so a lot of participating, but you mentioned a few that aren't. I believe Kildare's is closed at the moment as well.
They are closed, yeah, so they're not participating either, but that's because they're not open.
Right, so there are a total of 29, though, including some newcomers, as Cara mentioned, and some of the favorites as well. And that's going to be running from the 22nd until the 1st, I believe, right?
Yep. And we should mention real quick, too, the menus are live. So if you go to Downtown Westchester website, you can go through to the restaurant page and click through the menus. So if you want to get a better idea of what your options are, specifically by restaurant, you can do that.
Yep, so you can do that there. And also in the newsletter, you have some links to it as well. And so the Westchester Restaurant Week will be starting the 22nd. So make sure to check that out. We are at the middle of the show at 11:46. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we'll have some quick updates and much more to come. So stick around and we will be right back. Welcome back to Hello Westchester. I'm Eric Lambera, joined by Cara Corridoni, publisher of Hello Westchester, which releases every Friday. It covers all the news and information. You can subscribe at hellowestchesterpa.com. So picking up where we left off, we did have some quick updates to get to. The first being Westchester Area School Board welcomes another new member.
Yeah, so we were talking about voting in school board elections just at the beginning of the show. What kind of comes back to it? The Westchester Area School Board has recently filled 2 of its 9 positions without elections. The reasons for this vary. In one case, Director Alex Christie, he retired at the end of the year, and he was forced to resign his position on the school board after he won an election for proto-notary. State law bars you individuals from holding 2 positions simultaneously. So his open position required an appointment. And then in October of last year, Dr. Karen Herman tendered her resignation. That was also done midterm. So so there was no election held for that position either. There was no real reason given for her resignation. So we're not sure what that was for. I've been trying to kind of get more information about these new appointees. The information is rather limited. I had a hard time finding their interviews online. I'm sure they're probably buried somewhere in a school board meeting. I just couldn't find it. But one of the appointees, Ashley Lamb, she was appointed in November. She's been appointed to replace Dr. Herman. She was selected by board members from a pool of 6 candidates. She has 2 children in the district, and she lists inclusivity and ensuring every child knows that they belong among her top priorities for the school board. And then most recently, Director Ramon Jackson was sworn in as the newest board member at the end of last month. He was the only candidate. There was 2 candidates that applied for the open position. But he was the only one that attended the required meeting, so therefore he was kind of the only candidate standing. He was appointed by majority vote. There is currently no information available on his background or qualifications, but I have been in touch with the district, and they are working with him to finalize his bio, so hopefully we'll have a little more information about who he is and kind of what his priorities or goals are for the district.
So welcoming Director Ramon Jackson as the newest board member to the Westchester Area School Board. Moving next to ICE ordinance advances in the borough. Yeah,
we spoke about this a little bit last week. So an ICE ordinance that would prevent Westchester Police Department from signing a 287G agreement with the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement without prior borough council approval at a public hearing, a public meeting. I don't think it has to be an official hearing. So it would be adding a layer of perhaps transparency and requirement before Westchester Borough could assign such an agreement. There was some discussion back on this forth. there was some, reiteration that the Westchester Borough Police Department does not have or has no intention of signing a 287G agreement. They do practice this, I guess. This is their practice normally. It is not policy. Mayor Lillian D. Baptiste, the Westchester Borough Mayor, did make a announcement at the meeting stating that they have taken the step to translate current practice into official policy. So now it is kind of written police policy. Westchester Police Chief Joshua Lee also spoke at the meeting, and he shared that on Tuesday morning he issued a special order 26-1 to all officers, and it really spelled out exactly where the Westchester Borough stands on this. The order reads that the Westchester Police Department does not enforce federal immigration laws. Members of the Westchester Police Department do not inquire as to the immigration status of people with whom we come into contact. Members of the Westchester Police Department will not detain anyone based on their immigration status, and members of the Westchester Police Department will continue to represent all members of the community, investigate crime, and assist victims without regard to one's immigration status. So there was a little back and forth on that. Do these policies go far enough, or should it be backed up with an ordinance? Most of the people in attendance at the meeting would like to see the ordinance. They appreciate the policy, but don't think an ordinance could hurt. Those that are against this seem to have 2 points of concern. Some people are worried that by taking, I guess, political action will draw attention to Westchester Borough, and what is already happening may get increased, or it may be harder for residents living in this area if we are seen as a target of some sort. And the other objection comes from a more who does what type of position. So there was some concerns that this was a bit of an overstep for Borough Council, and that the police department falls directly under the domain of the Westchester mayor, and therefore her decision and these policies regards should be enough. So that's kind of where it stands. It will go to Borough Council this week. They will have a discussion on it and then decide whether to advance it and make it an ordinance or, I guess, reject it.
Yeah, and this is something that I feel like we've seen, like I know West Whiteland had something similar recently. It seems like a good way to clear up some of the confusion surrounding that. So that was the ICE ordinances advancing in the borough. Let's go next to a record-breaking year for Westchester's emergency services. Yeah,
not the right kinds of records, unfortunately, but the Westchester Borough, the Westchester Fire Department and Good Fellowship Ambulance both reported last week they had record-breaking years in 2025. Good Fellowship had responded to 8,994 calls. Of those, 2,268 were in the borough. On the Westchester Fire side, Fire Chief Justin McClure told a similar story. He says call volume continues to increase. In 2025, Westchester Fire Department responded to 1,775 calls, resulting in 769 hours of service. And as a reminder, particularly the Westchester Fire Department is an all-volunteer fire department, so that is a lot of strain on them.
Oh, definitely. You mentioned the call volume continuing to increase, resulting in 769 hours of service, Westchester Fire Department alone. Let's go next to a downtown grocery store potentially coming soon.
Yeah, so I know we've heard rumors about this for years now, but it looks like we are making progress. A little over a decade after establishing the Westchester Cooperative and bringing an idea for a community-owned full-service grocery store to Westchester, we're making some progress. It sounds like the co-op has hired a new general manager, and they have begun demolition on their Market Street storefront, and they are now promising a 2026 opening.
So it looks like that could be coming soon, the Westchester Cooperative. Moving next to the Colonial Village Meat Market under new ownership.
Yes, I know this is a popular one for people, and I've heard some comments about this. So, yes, the current owners of the Colonial Village Meat Market, Kevin Kelly and Rich Hill, they purchased the store in 1993, and they promised and continued the tradition of reasonably priced meats and deli items, but they are ready for retirement, and they have sold their building to the Stolfus family. They're very excited to take over and serve the community, and they are hoping to continue the great tradition of the quality meats at reasonable prices and exceptional customer service and community support. So all good news for fans of the Colonial Meat Market. There is one thing you should note, and I know it's had mixed reviews. They are now closed on Sundays, and that is effective immediately. So it has been happening for the last couple of weeks. I know Sunday is a popular shopping day there, but the Stolfus family is doing that for religious reasons. So just be aware.
Yep. And so wishing Kevin and Rich the best in retirement. And best of luck to the new owners. As you mentioned, take note of the change in operations. Let's go next to QVC stocks taking another dive. Yeah,
so it was not a good week for the Westchester-based home shopping network. After a report appeared in the Philadelphia Business Journal that the QVC group leaders have been quietly discussing ways to restructure the company's nearly $5.8 billion in long-term debt. There is no formal plans at this time. However, the discussions are said to include Chapter 11 bankruptcy. When this news got out, the stock price fell a dramatic 66%, which is a large tumble. And unfortunately for QVC, they had a not quite so large, but a significant fall also at the end of after third quarter reports. Financial reports.
I believe if I remember correct, when I looked, it was at 374 for the stock. So it fell quite a bit there. Mm-hmm. And then let's go next to the Westchester University Business Pitch Competition returning.
Oh, my goodness. Got a lot today, huh? I forgot. Yes. So the Westchester University is back with its Cottrell Entrepreneurship Center's Business Idea Challenge. This is their annual business pitch event that they host. So if you're interested and you have a new business idea, they are taking applications. You just have to fill out a short form sharing your idea, who you want to market to it, and what you hope you will achieve with it.
There we go. And let's go with one more thing here for time's sake. The Westchester Park Rec and Open Space, the PROS Plan public hearing.
Yes. So let's note that.
So it looks like that's debuting, I'm seeing, the February 18th.
So a public hearing has been scheduled for that. That's going to take place on Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. So at Borough Hall. It'll happen right before the Borough Council meeting. So you'll get a presentation of the parks PROS plans, as well as there will be a final vote on that. So if you're interested, put that on your calendar and make sure to attend.
Yep, that'll be coming up on the 18th. And that takes us to the end of the show here. So we are out of time. Thank you, Cara, as always. Listeners, you can find the podcast of this episode and all episodes at 953wche.com on the podcast tab. We will talk to you next week.